today I'm going to program an electric piano-like sound, something that's good with chords for the Microkorg. So it's synthy, but musical. First things first, let's init the patch, Shift 3, 3 again. The patch is initialized. Let's start with oscillator 1. Something that's good, that's synthy, but kind of familiar at the same time on the Microkorg is the digital waves right here. They're sourced from the DW synths that came out in the early 80s, the DW8000 and the DW6000. And if we sweep through them, you'll hear what they sound like. So, very bright, that one. So, kind of organ-like. I like that one. Not too bright, but quite present. So right now, you're hearing just oscillator 1. Oscillator 2 is there, but it's not present in the mixer. So let's go to that. So oscillator 1 is all the way, but oscillator 2 isn't there. So I'm just hearing oscillator 2, so I'm going to dial that back to probably that. There we go. Oscillator 1 with a little bit of extra buzziness from oscillator 2. But I think what I want from oscillator 2 is actually a square wave. And since we're here, I'm going to make oscillator 2 an octave higher. I'm going to turn on the ring modulator, sync, ring modulator, but I'm going to detune oscillator 2 a little bit, even though it's up an octave, a perfect octave. I'm going to detune slightly for this effect to add a little bit of movement without, it's very static. But here you have a little bit of an oscillation between the two waveforms, adding some movement. More, it gets interesting. Ooh, but in a noisy way. So just a teeny bit like that. There we go. Perfect. Okay, and I think I like it like that. Let's see with sync. No movement there, pretty boring. Ring modulation and sync. It's not bad, but I think I'll keep it just with straight ring modulation. I'm going to set the amplitude envelope, the loudness of the sound over time. I'm going to add a little bit of attack, something like so. Almost sounds like an accordion there. I'm going to bring down the decay, but you won't hear that unless I bring down the sustain to probably about that. A little bit harsh on the ending there, so I'm going to add some release at the end there. That's quite playable there. Now it's time to look at the filter. I'm going to go with a bandpass filter. I want to focus on a narrow area of the sound. So let's sweep slowly. A little bit better. Okay. Oh, I like that. That's very rich. Okay, let's turn up the resonance. Quite dark. A little bit of resonance. That's not bad. Has a very vintage kind of tone. Very 70's. I've now lost some of the movement that I introduced with the two oscillators slightly detuned from each other. So I'm going to go to the filter envelope to add a little bit of change to how the filter behaves. So I'm going to set a filter envelope. I think it's going to match pretty closely what the amp envelope does. Okay, so you won't hear anything as I set it because first up I want to set it so about that much. Decay is going to be mid-50s. I'm going to bring down the sustain, high 40s, and I'm going to add some release. Now, let's go back to the filter, and that's where you find the filter EG int, which is basically how strong an effect the envelope has on the filter. So, negative first. That's not what I'm after. That's more like it. So maybe a little bit too much. Kind of more of a wow kind of sound. Yeah. No, too much. Perfect. Okay. So, the filter is set. There's some motion again in the sound. I'm happy. Let's add a little bit more variation with the LFO. So, the LFO is going to come in handy because it will allow us to add some modulation routing using the 4 patches that are available using the second edit select knob. So right now I'm not really thinking about what I'm going to be routing to what. I'm just thinking about what kind of modulation do I want. So first up, I think I want something pretty random, and you'll see why. So sample and hold, node beat sync, and I want something quite fast. LFO2, on the other hand, is going to be something more restrained. So a sine wave, and probably roughly there. Okay, so let's go to the first patch. First up, the origin of the modulation, and the origin is going to be LFO1, which is the fast, crazy, random LFO, is going to modulate LFO2 by a smidge. What I want to do is basically add a little bit of randomness to the sedate oscillation of LFO2. So first up, I have to do that. So then in patch 2, this is where things get interesting. LFO2 has now been affected. So now I take LFO2 and route it to, I think probably cutoff, which will add some more motion. And I think probably, let's see what that sounds like. Do you see that? So you have the basic oscillation plus then some granularity that's added by LFO1. Let's see the negative. Okay, let's see without. What happens without? It's subtle, but there is so that's very nice. Okay, patch 3. I'm going to, so hang on. Patch 1, LFO1 into LFO2 slightly. Patch 2, LFO2 that's now been affected, kind of corrupted by LFO1, goes into filter cutoff slightly, but in the negative. Okay. Patch 3, I'm going to have LFO1, which was, remember, the kind of slightly crazy one, go to affect, let's see, it's going to affect, I want it to affect the tuning of the second oscillator. That's this 2TN, that means tuning for the second oscillator, I guess. And that's going to affect it pretty slightly. Let's see. That's a little bit much. That's good. Again, these are subtle changes. And then finally, patch 4, our last patch location, some noise. So, I kind of wanted to come in an expressive way, so I'm going to use velocity, VEL, and I'm going to route that to NOS, which is noise, slightly. That's clearly too much. That's good. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that sound, but I'm going to add some effects, which is handy because that's the next destination on the edit select knob. I'm going to add that much. Let's see. Without. With. Probably something like that. That's good. Let's see. I like that. Okay, then I'm going to add some delay. Nothing wrong with some delay. Straight. I'm not tempo syncing it to anything. Let's see what this sounds like. No, I want something more spatial. Okay, I like that. That, you know, you can always take off if needs be. Okay. And finally is some EQ. And this is handily organized like that with the Edit Select 2 knob. So the first knob controls the EQ point, the frequency that you want to affect. So let's see. Let's start with something here. And let's see what happens. Let's cut. You know what? I'm going to add a little bit of low mids, just a teeny bit, and then let's see what happens if I do that. So there you go. That's the sound. So let's save that. And here's one I made earlier, just next door on the program number selector. Let's see how it compares. So my original one, I think, was darker in terms of sound. And I think the reason why that was is that, well, one of the reasons was that in Oscillator 2, here I chose the ring modulation, but then with Oscillator 2 in the original patch, I believe I chose, let's see, yeah, I chose the ring / sync modulation. So there you go. A kind of chord-like soft sound, vintage, sleazy 70s sound for your compositions there. And I will post the exact settings in the comments below. So please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and until next time.